We're getting closer and closer to the end of the transfer window, which obviously the end will be from September 1st, and more clubs, including in the Premier League, making some action reacting actively to some injuries that they may have suffered during the beginning of the season. Of course, that includes Manchester City, the treble winners from last season. Kevin De Bruyne, of course, out for a significant portion of the time, meaning that it looks now Matheus Nunes, the Portuguese star from Wolverhampton Wanderers, looking like it's going to happen. A move, 55 million euros around that time, to go to the side of Manchester. You would think that it's a replacement for De Bruyne, but there's another creative component there for City as Nunes leaves Wolves and heads over to City. Dalen, let's begin with you. Your thoughts just regarding this move and this amount, because it is significant.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there was the talk about Paqueta earlier in the transfer window, maybe for 100 million. So that's when you look at the price of this, is maybe more aligned with what City wanted to spend. I know they came in a little bit lower and they found themselves here in the mid 50 millions. Well, when you think about where Pep always seems to do this, like he will heap praise on players, and he did it last year in Nunes' direction and eventually wanted him to come around. They needed somebody to replace KDB. Now, there's no one-to-one replacement. That guy is otherworldly. He's, again, one of the best players in the world, if not the best player in the world, in terms of being an attacking, creative midfielder and what he can do with the ball and the passes he picks and the vision and how much he can make things go for City. That said, Nunes is a very good young player. He hasn't really scored much. I think he has one goal in the Premier League, but that may be more of a function of playing with Wolves and a team that has its own struggles offensively. If you put him in with this group of players, will he be able to be KDB? No. But will he be able to provide another attacking option in the midfield that needs some reinforcements given the injuries they've had? Yeah, so I'm not surprised by the move. I think it was necessary. We'll see if he, with this plethora of players around him that are at a whole different level, what he can bring to that City team.
You like it, Shaka?
I'm a little bit confused. I'll be honest with you. And while Pep Guardiola is Pep Guardiola and he gets to make these decisions and see things in players that nobody else does, certainly that I don't, it's a little bit confusing to me. And Darren mentioned the link with Paqueta. Again, if I were West Ham, I would have snapped City's hand off at 65 million. Never mind, push it all the way to 100. And then that kind of fell apart, given some of the off-the-field issues, shall we call them. And then the link with Nunes. And now Pep Guardiola has praised Nunes. This is going back many a year to when City played Sporting in the Champions League, where Pep kind of was full of praises for his performance then, even though it was a bit of a one-sided thrashing. I don't get it. And while you can look at the likes of Grealish, who cost, north of or just about 100 million, it took him a year to settle into what Pep was being asked for. Riyad Mahrez, who was the club record signing even before that, it took him a year to settle in before understanding exactly what Pep wanted and to have a significant role in that City team. I guess the counter to that is Akanji, who'd been heavily criticized during his time at Dortmund, came into the City team and has simply been outstanding. So maybe this is closer to my own opinion of Akanji and how he's transformed, but I just don't see it with Nunes. Again, Pep will prove me wrong more times than not. So he's earned that. He's earned that right to spend this kind of money in bringing in those players.
He most definitely has. All right, let's move on. Staying in the Premier League, Chelsea, Mauricio Pochettino's Chelsea get their first win in the Premier League against Luton last weekend. Moises Caicedo has been added, of course, some historic transfer fees right there. But apparently, the moves keep on coming, at least this transfer window, because there's a talk of possibly knocking on the door of Barcelona for either Ferran Torres or Rafinha, or maybe both. Who knows when it comes to Chelsea. Shaka, back to you. Do you like either of them? One of them? Do you think this is what Chelsea needs? I mean, Raheem Sterling's looking good. Possibly they need more help. Mudrik's injury. What do you think? Ferran Torres, Rafinha, both? What do you reckon?
Right, listen, I think Chelsea's main issue is an out-and-out goal scorer. And while they may have found that in Nicholas Jackson, I've said all along from pre-season, I thought his kind of rawness and inexperience would have been you'd have seen the best of him with Nkunku sitting in behind. Yes, he got injured, but still, I don't think Nicholas Jackson, or I don't think there's a need to have Nicholas Jackson as your only striker. Find somebody who could play as one of a front two, and maybe that player is Ferran Torres, who can play through the middle. Yes, he played out wide for Barcelona more times than not, but even when he plays centrally, I'm not sure that Ferran Torres is as much of a finisher in that regard. So again, it makes little sense for me in terms of that striker that's needed, whether it's Rafinha, who can play either flank, but again, Chelsea have a lot of players through midfield. They have players who can play out wide. Their main target, again, for me, is a goal scorer, somebody who can play as an out-and-out striker. If Nicholas Jackson goes down, somebody who can play as a partner to Jackson. But I'm not sure that Ferran Torres is the answer for either of those.
Yeah, I'm with you, Shaq. I think it's the profile of the player is what they're looking for. The two options there don't really fit the profile of the player I think they need, to echo what you just said. Now, the challenge, too, is whether it's Mudryk or Nkunku, well, the injury is more long-term, but you're still going to have these guys eventually come back. And this was the challenge with Chelsea last year, such a big roster. You're going to have these guys come back that are replicative of a very similar player profile. So I understand they're probably going to make that move because that's what Todd Boehly has done. And in all honesty, I've heard the word amortization more in the last 5 weeks than I have in the last 39 years of my life. So we will continue to hear that discussion as people want to understand how they're making this move. I think Barcelona, either way, if they could get one of the two or both of them off their books, very good thing for them as they still want to get João Cancelo signed. There's a whole other thing about João Felix, which I don't agree with that, but they want to get that in there too. Like they want to do some business as well. So Barcelona as a motivated seller in this situation, and Chelsea's a motivated buyer, I just don't think this is going to answer their need and their question for somebody to put the ball in the back of the net consistently and play through the middle. But I feel like they're going to make one or both moves because that's what they do.
Can I also add here about Chelsea? I mean, 3 or maybe 4 weeks ago, I was looking at their transfer business, and I thought, this really is a different look to Chelsea. It seemed as though, and okay, Saudi Arabia comes along and takes a number of players off their hands, and they get good prices for that. And then Mount goes to Manchester United. City comes in for Kovacic, and it really looked like Chelsea were approaching this as you would expect a club to approach. Mind you, a club that spent over £500 million over the last 12 months, still didn't qualify for Champions League, so they would have to kind of figure out how things would work financially, and then that dreaded amortization kind of kept getting floating around. I'm going into the bank and ask for a mortgage, and I'm just gonna. When they ask me how I'm going to pay for this, I'm going to just say, just ask Todd Boehly. Whatever Todd Boehly did,
just bring on Todd.
Just yell amortization. Amortization.
That's how I'm going to pay for my mortgage for my 15-bedroom castle. I don't know right now, but somehow it works for other people. But anyway, 4 weeks ago, it looked like Chelsea were getting their house in order, and then all of a sudden, it just seemed like the old Chelsea back again. I can't fault Chelsea for their pursuit of somebody like Caicedo. If he becomes available, yes, you want to be in the market for them. But was there really a need for Lavia? Was there a need for so many of the other signings? And again, we're having that same discussion yet again. Is it really a need, given some of their financial constraints, for Rafinha, for Ferran Torres? I'm not sure it makes them significantly better.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of talent going in, but the metal, the sustainability within the squad is a little bit worrying. Speaking, by the way, of outgoings of Chelsea, Dalen, I'll ask you, and Shaka, you jump right in because we're getting those questions in. Thank you, everybody. Keep sending them to Shaka, Hislop, Dalen Cuff, and LME. But here's one for you regarding staying with Chelsea and some outgoings. You mentioned some outgoings previously there, Shaka, but here's another one. Romelu Lukaku to Roma. Is Mourinho, Dalen, and Lukaku a good mix to get him back on track? What do you think?
I don't know if I'm more tired of Mourinho or Lukaku conversation. I don't know which one, but they're very, very high.
You can be quick on it. Don't worry about it.
I will be quick on it. I think Lukaku, we haven't seen him at his best in years. It's been years, but we continue to talk about him because of the player he was at the club level, but also he had some great years, good tournaments at the international level as well when healthy. That's long in the past. If he reunites with Mourinho, yes, can he be effective on a Roma team that needs some help, to say the least? Potentially. But I don't think that team is going to factor at the top of the Serie A. And it's, in the end, two guys that have had and done great things in their careers. And Mourinho, the self-described special one. It's been a long time since we've seen special stuff from either one of them.
Shaka, very quick on Lukaku and Mourinho. What do you think?
Listen, I like Lukaku as a player. I like a lot of what he brings in terms of physicality, in terms of being direct. I think his hold-up play is also very, very good. Question marks about his finishing, absolutely. But given his role for Inter Milan over the last couple of seasons, you understand an Italian club, and in this case Roma, wanting to take that chance. While I have been first to defend Lukaku in just about every single thing, the last few months have left me totally bemused. I thought he was happy. He was settled at Inter Milan. Certainly had a wonderful partnership going alongside Lautaro Martinez, who I thought was outstanding the other day against Cagliari. But anyway, I digress. Why you upset that in pursuit of Juventus? I thought if he was going to kind of given his experiences at Manchester United, surely he understands the value of wanting to feel needed, of feeling appreciated. And Inter Milan gave him that. His experiences at Manchester United and Chelsea. Inter Milan gave him, I thought, everything that he wanted. Even after some of the disappointments, both in a Belgium jersey and the Champions League final, I thought the Inter Milan fans stood by him. Why you go and mess with that is simply beyond me. If you mess with that to go to Saudi Arabia for an extra zero on top of your weekly wage, I can sympathize with that. But to go to Juventus, that didn't make any kind of sense to me at all. So good luck to him, but the last month or two has left me a little bit frustrated with Romelu Lukaku.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.